So tell us, what does Maxta do?
Yeah, Maxta is a hyperconvergence software company. So maybe it's easier to first go to hyperconvergence and then we'll drop to software.
Right.
So what hyperconvergence does is it collapses a significant amount of IT infrastructure, this three-tier IT infrastructure of servers, storage area network, and then storage arrays, and it really collapses them all together and just having servers with media inside it. That media could be NVMe, it could be SSD, or it could be regular disk drives, and some combination of that. So what that does is obviously is a lot less equipment to manage, but it makes it simpler to actually manage itself. So now you can have an IT administrator or a VM administrator managing storage by just managing VMs, and those VMs actually create the storage instead of actually having a separate storage admin go in and manage things like LUNs and other storage constructs that are out there. So that's hyperconvergence in general, and there's typically, as in most things when they come out, it comes out from an appliance format, much easier for somebody to support, much easier to ship, and then it would move to software. And that's what we do. So we're a hyperconvergence software company. You can buy our software. We're unique in the fact that you can get our software, put it on existing servers that you have as a customer, and then you can also buy our software pre-configured on any number of server brands and put all of that together. There's really no one else who can do that out there. And so as the world evolves to software, that's going to be really a major requirement for companies to be able to do that.
I mean, we are already kind of living in the software-defined world, everything from networking, computer, storage.
Sure.
At the same time, we are also living in a world which is multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. So when you're talking about, are you talking about only those players who have their own data centers, or who
Yeah,
else?
it's interesting. I read an article recently where it's all multi-cloud now, because really when you think of most data centers, you can almost think of them as a private cloud. And then you've got, of course, the public cloud out there. And private cloud providers want to operate as much as like a public cloud, and whether that's a private cloud as a managed service provider or even just a general enterprise. So how do I leverage things like very simple management, which of course HCI, hyperconvergence, provides, but how can I use white box servers? How can I scale the way I need to scale, right? And if I need to add capacity, add it very granularly by adding drives. How can I use open source if I need to in certain areas? Maybe I want to run, some licensed virtualization, some open source virtualization, and have those on different workloads. So it's really operating as much as you possibly can like a public cloud. No one's ever going to get there on a private cloud. But if you can get those sort of economics from both a capital side and a management side, it really, really helps quite a bit.
And the trend that we're seeing is that private cloud is going to be more specialized cloud, whereas public cloud will be used, just to push some journal stuff there. Do you agree with that view?
I think everybody wants to operate back to as much like a public cloud as possible. I do think certain workloads will be in different places, but I think you will see public or private cloud, adding on things like containerization into virtualization. They're really just two different forms of abstraction. One's a bit heavier than the other, but having a single solution, that supports both of those is going to be critical from a private cloud side. Being able to have certain workloads in VMs, certain workloads in containers. Just back even if you wanted to have open source VMs and licensed VMs or paid virtualization. All that together, I think, is really, really critical.
So where does Maxta fit into that word?
Maxta fits into all of that world. So we are a software company. So when you think about private cloud and leveraging white box and commodity hardware, adding capacity the way you need to add it, we're unique. I think we're the only one where you can actually own the license. So with hyperconvergence, now you're refreshing it with a server refresh cycle instead of a storage refresh cycle. So 3 years instead of 7. So in a 10-year life cycle, you're paying for that software every single time unless you have a perpetual license like we do. So you own it for the life of the company, the life of the customer. And then really, once again, being able to support open source, license virtualization, and then containers. We do all of that together. So.
You mentioned open. How much of your own technology is open source, or how much are you consuming?
We leverage some open source in our technology, but we're not an open source company. But we do enable customers to leverage open source Kubernetes solutions, of course, which is all open source, and open source, KVM solutions. So that way, they can use VMware vSphere for certain workloads or Red Hat KVM for other workloads, and then also at the same time run something with Red Hat OpenShift container platform, really all together in one platform.
Recently, an announcement also came. You're working with Red Hat.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So Red Hat, it's an awesome KVM solution out there, open source. And really coming at it from a container side of things with Kubernetes, the Red Hat OpenShift container platform. And so, we view having both vSphere as well as Red Hat as a definite advantage from a VM side of things, but then also being able to run the Red Hat OpenShift container platform on the same solution. So that way, it really gives the full gamut of, if you want paid virtualization, if you want open source, if you want containers, really all one single platform.
One last question would be, here at the conference, since we are here at the conference, so we have to keep talking about what is going on.
Sure.
Some new use cases were also talked about. So from your perspective, when you talk about software defined, what are the new use cases that you see, which you either see as a challenge or an opportunity?
Well, I think the biggest one is hybrid, back to what you talked about before. And the interesting thing will be how that evolves. If I think about a public cloud, like let's take Amazon or take Google, there's certain things that applications, whether it's analytics, whether it's machine learning, whether it's artificial intelligence, that when you're running natively on those clouds, you can take advantage of those applications, and you can't really take advantage of them if you're running on-prem. So, I think there's going to be an evolution to where you have a private cloud instance, but that's very different than your public cloud instance. In other words, you can always take Maxta software and stand it up bare metal on any sort of cloud provider like Amazon or IBM or whatever. But is that what a customer wants to do, as compared to taking advantage of native EC2 instances and maybe taking advantage of some sort of analytics or ML or AI? So I think that's going to be certainly a change to where it's not hybrid in terms of I'm just going to take my stuff and put it up here and run it in both places. And because I'm running it in both places, and all I'm really doing is saving management of servers. It's really taken advantage of cloud native services and cloud native applications. I think that's where it's going to go.
Okay, Barry, it was nice talking to you today, and hopefully we'll see you again at the next conference.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.